the respondents liable, whether it be the so-called prosecutor or the municipal employee. Discovery is actually one of the way that you do it. So we'll be going through that because there's something called prosecutorial immunity, which is the bar. So we'll be going through how to go over that, and it ties back into the certification that we went over in the past. But before we start, are there any questions? Donald, do
General
you have any
questions?
questions? Yeah, general questions. Doesn't have to be specific to anything. Just any question you have.
Okay. Um, one of them is off of the injunction template, just near for the certificate of service. There's a portion that says the registered mail number, and I was just wondering if it registered mail versus certified mail. Does it need to be registered mail?
Okay, that's a good question. It's best to be registered mail, although I believe registered mail costs about 3 times. Certified mail is about $5 and a few cents, depending on how thick it is. And registered mail is about 17 or 18 bucks, depending on where it's going. For one, registered mail is good because the way that it is delivered is not just through typical carriers throwing it into some plastic box. They lock it up within the post office, but then as it transfers from one carrier to the other, they put it in another separate lock box that those carriers carry. So in essence, it's handled a bit more confidential, so to say. That's on the public side of things. Now, on the private side of things, each anything that you see at North America, I don't know about any other system that has any scannable bar, particularly registered mail, is directly tied to some type of monetary system. The fact that you're paying some given amount for that registered mail gives it value for one. Second, you can always add insurance to that. When you add insurance to a registered mail and you attach it to a given document, in the future, you have the ability to actually monetize that because that insurance is being issued by the Postal Service themselves. And usually, the only reason why you want to insure something is if there's a potential loss. And whoever is insuring that thing has to have a banking system. It's that simple because usually you're not signing in a contract to say that they're going to give this to you, but there's a predominant banking system. So for most people who have ties to postal banking or some type of offshore accounts, when they choose or opt to do registered mail for sensitive private documents so that they can monetize it. For instance, when you're doing fee schedules, this is the part I've yet to speak of, but it's coming up with the audit series of video. When you're doing fee schedules, you actually send it through registered mail and you insure it up to a certain amount. That insurance up to a certain amount is what you can use to cash out one way or the other, regardless of how that fee schedule goes. But that's another equation. But as for the injunction, when it comes to protecting yourself with constitutionally secured right, you want it to be held privately. Now, you can monetize it if you pay attention to that injunction, it's referring to monetary related matters. And it directly ties into that if you already have an inside account. Because you can now take that injunction itself and actually turn it into money. That's the reason why the case number in the top is also the registered mail number. Give me a moment. 1 second, I'll be back.
Mm-hmm.
But in short, it's for the purpose of it being handled privately without the risk of it being lost in transition easier, and two, for other sophisticated things. But all in all, if you know the registered mail is too much, you can just do a certified mail, so long as you can track it.
Okay.
All right.
Could I ask one more question regarding the injunctions?
Oh yeah. Go ahead.
So those in the video of the injunctions, uh, you mentioned filing those notices that you send out, those 3 notices in the courthouse under miscellaneous. Um, are you filing the original notices that are notarized, and then you send out the scan copies of those injunctions? Or because I figure if you're gonna mail them out, you're sending the original copies that are notarized. So how would I file them in the courthouse if I'm mailing them out?
Well, this is what I tell everyone with any important document. Once you sign it and you notarize it, always scan what you sign or notarize for your copy. Always. So with court cases, when you file a document, you would always have 2 copies, one for them, one for you to file stamp. But in the case of the injunction, you're basically giving yourself of the original copy. You're relinquishing it. In place of doing that, make a copy for yourself so you have it. That's how I do all documents that I mail. I always scan a copy for myself once I notarize and sign it. Then I send one other copy to them. And then I can track that. And once it's delivered, I usually just take an online image of the delivery of that same copy of that same notarized and signed document. And I just add it to the file. So that's how I do that. Now, on the note of the injunction being filed in a court case, remember I told you don't necessarily do it until after it is needed, because an injunction is just a constitutional challenge, but in a different format and for a different purpose, absent of a pending court case and with monetary liability attached. So it's like a mini suit.
Yeah, I do remember that. Just wanted to know if it was the original or the scanned copy I had to file.
Yes, the scanned copy. Just that'll be sufficient. Because what matters is that they received it. Remember, you would take an image of the online USPS showing the delivery and you would add it to the file. So when you end up seeing that you need to file that injunction in the case, if it's needed, you file the delivery also, because that is right there is a proof that there's a merger. It's no different than, see, when you use an injunction that way, it's no different than you basically sending a summons. Delivery is no different than them accepting it. But there are other methods to that that are more sophisticated I've yet to think of, but just to touch upon that, that's what that does.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had.
All right. I saw that Maria raised her hand, then the architect, raised. So I'll be going to Maria, then the architect. What's going on, Maria?
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm balanced. Sorry.
Okay, my first question is on the 508 that you have on the website. I saw a video on it, and it said that we needed to pay like $400 to $850 to get it started. But is that the price for the program, or is that an additional $400 to $850 to get this up and running, or
To get it start the video? So with the 508, I think you're referring to the Constitution and bylaws. The template are on the website. Now, I don't really know right now exactly what it costs, but I'm sure it's on the website. Now, when it comes to getting it started, you don't really have to pay anything once you get the template.
The program, okay. All right. The second question is, I'm doing the monthly membership, and I tried watching it on my other laptop, and it was asking me for a password. I've never received a password. I don't know how. I don't even know if I've even been on the website, on the membership website.
Wait, you're referring to the patron page?
The Patreon page, because I'm paying 170. Well, I paid 170 this month, so I don't know if I've ever been.
For you to be a member, it would have asked for your email and password to register in the first place on the website.
Oh, then I've never been on it then, because it's never asked me for anything.
What?
I thought I
That's
was on there
normal.
because I would go out to YouTube, grab the name of the video that I was watching it, and then put it back into the Patreon page, and it would give me the video. So I thought I was there.
But in order for you to be able to search it on Patreon, you must have been logged onto Patreon. If you look at the bottom left, it should show you the name. Can you go on Patreon right now?
On the bottom left, yes, it does show it, but I've never received. I've never received a password or anything, so I don't understand how I'm there.
Did you create one? You should have created one. It would allow you to do so. Right at the beginning, you must have created for you to. So at the bottom left, you will see whatever name you used.
Yeah, it's just Maria, and then it says, well, it just says Creator Hub, Help Center, Future Request.
Okay, go to now. Look on top. You should see Setting. There should be a panel to the left that says Setting.
Excuse me. Settings. Okay, settings.
Okay, wait, no, hold on. That's not where you're going. Now you see the part where it says, I don't know if it's different, if my own panel is the same. So do you see a part that says my page?
No. No, I see home, find creator, community, notifications, purchases, settings, subtlesubstance, book of prisoners, and Patreon once released. And then on settings, because I clicked settings, it says basics, account, email notification, memberships, and more.
Okay, now do you know the email that you used for Patreon? Okay. Now, if you can, go on another device and go to that same patreon.com. And you know what? Actually, let me go on it right now. Just a second. Okay, you see. So go on setting.
Okay. I'm in now, their basics account.
Okay, click account.
Account. Old password.
It should be the yes. It should say update password.
It says login. App update. Okay.
Do you see the part that says update password?
Yes.
Okay, click that. And you should be able to set a password. Basically, the fact that you're seeing that means you already have a password. You probably don't remember setting it up.
Yeah, I probably didn't.
I will go into my email and look at the day that Patreon sends you some type of confirmation for your password. And then take it from there.
Okay. All right.
Because the fact that you are a member means you have to register and log in first.
Oh, okay. So
it probably skipped your mind that you did so.
I probably did. I'm gonna be 65, so
that happens. It's all good.
Okay. The third question is, what programs do I need to buy to be able to establish the express trust?
The first thing you need is if you're not doing anything relating to real property, what you'll need is the initiating document, and you need the foreign trustee geographical document. And I believe those are the two, and you need a certification of trust.
Okay. So the initial documents, a geographic and certificate of trust. And so with the 508, that comes later?
Yeah, you can. Depends on what you're trying to do. If you're trying to create a bank account, I implore you to get the 508 bylaws and constitution. If you don't have a need for that, then no, don't worry about it. If you want to get out of property taxes, if you have a house,
Mm-hmm.
then and you don't want to directly interface with Express Trust doing that, you can also use the 508. Or if you want to register a vehicle without, paying the taxes and stuff like that, then you should get the 508. Otherwise, then those three things are just what you need.
Ah, okay. So with this, with just the three first ones, this is how I'm able to pay some of my bills and things like that. Use it in different
You're
ways.
speaking about discharge. You're trying to discharge?
Well, yeah, discharge and try to see if I could discharge things and to buy
Okay.
things, right? Like,
Well, with the buying portion, if you want to use notes to buy stuff, that's another different thing. But ultimately, you still need to establish an express trust first as a foundation. So those three things are what you need first. And the
okay,
reason why I implore people to discharge with an express trust or have an express trust involved is so that if a ghost does not trigger tax liability.
okay, okay. So these three will work, right, for that, or to get
That
started.
and then yes, is the foundation because that will be the entity that carries all of it. You'll be
Okay.
doing it through that. And then you still need to get a discharge type one that shows you exactly how to fill the form with the discharge out, the cover letter and all that, and the laws involved.
Did you say discharge one?
Discharge type one.
Oh, type. Okay. Okay. Well, I believe those are all my questions. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate you. All of this information is really it's gold for real. It's really gold, and it's a 24 karat too.
All right. Okay. Appreciate it. No problem. Okay. The next, I think it was the architect. Then I'll be going to Trey. So the architect. How's it
Peace,
going?
bro. How's it going for you?
Pretty great.
That's right. First question I got is when there's a transfer after issuance, what is generally meant by the transfer being subject to Euronext Securities Milan's intervention procedures? Like, where can I locate more information regarding this?
Okay. Transfer of. I know the account you're speaking of. Now, so the Euronext are basically they're basically third parties that work on a bank end with account holders in the market. So when you say transfer, though, what are you referring to particularly?
Uh, my assumption is funds, proceeds.
Okay, so from you as a profit from you, or what are you referring
Well,
to?
I received a QSIP and an ISIN regarding a bond that's associated with the estate.
Okay.
And it was told to me that if there's any transfers after issuance, they'll be subject to Euronext Securities Milan's intervention procedures.
Oh, okay, got it, got it. Okay, so you have the QSIP. So basically, the transfer that they're referring to, let me not put it that way. What they're referring to is basically if you're trying to issue that, because that QSIP that you have, you can now issue it for fractional reserve banking so that others can start betting on it on the market for you to get profit. The transfer part, I'm still really not sure what that's referring to, but I know the issue just basically means you're acting as the original issuer so that in the future you can get a discount on it, which would be the profit, which would be the return. When you do that, what that's telling you is that depending on the nature of the contract that gave rise to that QSIP, because the social number, the birth certificate can have different QSIPs based on the contract. So depending on whatever contract gave rise to that, what that means is each nation state has their own stock markets. For instance, the ones in North America, well, Chicago, New York. The ones in Europe are governed by other bodies, and they have their own international regulations. If that contract has gone in the hands of other people from that part of the world, and they've basically done fractional reserve on it, up to that point, that means that contract is subject to theirs also. So if you're going to eventually using it, you're going to have to be able to the subjection of your own action with that QSIP to other jurisdiction outside of North America is really as simple as, do you have a foreign bank account with them, and are you using gold and silver? Just to make it very, very, very short.
Got it. My assumption is the transfer will be invoked for purposes of settlements and discharge.
Oh, this is regarding the whole pineapple stuff?
Yep.
Okay. Because that's one way you can transfer. The other way you can transfer is to basically your beneficiaries. And the other way you can transfer is to other third parties who are using that temporarily. Another way you can transfer is to the county. Another way you can transfer is all those guys, but to you. So when you said transfer, there was just a lot of things going on. But in your case, since you're trying to use it that way, you won't have to worry about it because subsidiary account, we already have that connection.
Got it. Okay, and the second question would be, this is the hypothetical. If a charge was brought against you, and you're in the capacity of a defendant, and the charge was brought by a state agency, and you decided to shift the burden by filing a counterclaim with the federal court, are you filing an affirmative defense / constitutional challenge / motion to dismiss within the state court before invoking the federal suit? Or are you just filing the counterclaim in federal court as your affirmative defense?
The first one and the second one. In the state court, you do an affirmative defense and a constitutional challenge, and then you do a counterclaim in the federal, both.
Got it. So it seems like you have to entertain or clear up that presumption on the lower level court before you do the counterclaim.
See, the thing with counterclaim is there are different types of counterclaims. Some counterclaims leave the state court pending. Another counterclaim pauses the state court so long as the federal one has been settled one way or the other. So if you are doing the type of counterclaim that leaves the state case running, it would still be affected and would still be qualified by the federal, but the assumption of guilt is still in your end. If you do the second type of counterclaim, I think I did a video a little bit in the past on this, whereby the federal level basically holds everything and puts a stay on the state level. You don't necessarily have to, but nonetheless, I say you should. Because now you can take the public record of the state. The reason why I say you should do the affirmative defense is you can take the public record in the state level with a certified copy of that and just use it as exhibit in the federal level. It becomes admissible.
Right. Which is part of the counterclaim procedures anyway, correct?
Yes, because counterclaims are claims arising out of something someone did to you. And usually the reason why the reason why you're innocent, basically, the reason why you're doing an affirmative defense is because something is not quite right with what they're bringing. So you can intertwine that with your counterclaim.
Got it. And then the last question would be, let's say a person has the ISIN / QSIP to their case or any related bond, and one decides to barter with the Internal Revenue Service for the anticipated bid amount for purposes of receiving a return. Would it be prudent for one to change the accounting method via Form 3115 before filing their 1041 to anticipate any sort of taxable event caused from that discharge?
That's actually the procedure. That's what you're supposed to do. So yes, it is. You got it right. And there's more forms too, just so you know. 1041 is one of them.
And that will be all mine. Thank you.
Awesome. Trey, what's going on?
Hey, let's see. We've got I'm confused about doing the grantor for the Express Trust. Is that going to be the Ensligus, or do you do your spiritual name?
Ensligus. Usually it'll be Ensligus. And the reason is because the grantor is the one bringing in the value into the trust. If you make someone else that's not the Ensligus as the grantor, and you start to attach any type of value of that birth certificate to it. Question will be, what is the link that allows whoever is assumed to be on the face of that birth certificate, the leaders? What is the link permitting them for you to use it in your trust? So it's best for that same name to be the one that's the grantor,
Okay.
regardless
Gotcha.
of how you're trying to use it.
Right. Doing the 508, I want to build my house / church. Is that all stuff that's tax deductible and copacetic with the 508?
Yep. For one, it's not, it doesn't even qualify for any type of tax. But if you want to use it as tax deductible, not a problem. Now, when you say tax deductible when it comes to 508, several things comes in mind. Either from the perspective of a gift, whereby you can say you can purchase it, say the house or the land, in someone else's name, or like an LLC if you don't want to use a name and just have someone sign it. And then that LLC or that name gets the loan on it if you're going that route, And then after they get the loan on it, the good part with houses, and the reason why most real estate deals work, starting from things like wholesaling all the way to things like private capital raising or things like subject to a lease auction, is the fact that the pending mortgage is a separate issue from whoever's name can be on the deed. So if your LLC obtains the deed publicly, you can still transfer the deed from that LLC to the name of the 508. And then you can do it that route, whereby the LLC gets the property to the 508. So there's no direct trail that the 508 engaged in any type of liability. Although, if you really are ballsy, there's really no big deal in showing that the 508 has a liability because it's a debt, and you can still write that off, considering that it's a type of religious organization. But that's other details. So it depends on what you're trying to do with it when you say tax deduction.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking as far as actually building the house, so like buying all the materials and everything.
Oh yes, that's how I did mine. Yes,
Okay.
definitely.
Okay.
What you will have to do now, is just create a private contract between another express trust and that 508, whereby the one who will be managing the construction and whatnot will be that express trust. And that contract will create a liability between the two parties, where one has to satisfy it. And because of that, for one, you would use that to put a lien on the property as the first lien holder. Always protect that. And from that same lien, you will be able to, that contract that established that lien, be able to use that as tax deduction to recuperate the monies back for the construction costs.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
Any more questions?
If I continue to build houses after I finish mine and I want to start another house to build, is that something that is that considered okay through the 508 as well? To
Remember,
something to build to sell?
I mentioned earlier when it comes to discrepancy of names, is it's very important. The reason why it might have seemed unnecessary, the reason why I mentioned the LLC first and transferring to 508 is because of what you just mentioned. If you've already begun in whatever name is latest name, you would have to gift it to the 508. That should be the first step. Then comes a contract between an express trust and 508, which would assist you lean up the property to your own benefit that other third parties cannot come in, because construction workers can put a mechanic lien on it. You never know. Construction workers are the most, how do you say, volatile. I've had experience with that, but you never know. So always secure that. Besides that, any other stuff going on, it might not be that same year, it might be 20 years later. You never know. To secure it.
Okay.
So whatever name you currently have pending, just have them gift the deed to the 508. And of course, you already know that you have a second express trust. So the express trust that will be creating a contract as a liability to lien up the property and for you to use as tax deduction will be different from the express trust that will be holding the 508. So ABC Express Trust doing business as 508 will be different from DEF Express Trust, which is signing a contract with a 508 to lien it up. So just use it that way.
Okay. Okay. Gotcha. Thank you.
All right. I think I saw the architect raise his hand first, then I see Maria raise her hand also. So, do you have a question, the architect?
Yeah, it was on the note of the 508 that Trey just kind of sparked the question for me.
Okay.
I was rewatching a video, and it was an old one. I believe it's about the Massachusetts. And there was a clip on there where you showed how you established a 508 bank account, right? Two
Yeah.
things. I noticed that you checked off nonprofit, right, instead of unincorporated association. And
Yep.
also, I noticed that you use the ens legis as a managing member. Now,
Yes.
designating the ens legis as one of the members that manages the 508 trust for purposes of establishing a bank account, is it prudent to establish that account with the SSN, given the fact that it's tied to the old age insurance for purposes of like creating CDOs? If so, is it okay to use the driver's license as identification to establish that account? What are the implications involved?
So if you're trying to do it the way Trey is, no, it wouldn't be prudent. But if you're trying to do it strictly just the way you are, because that example that I showed in that video where I marked up nonprofit, I did that was one of the properties that I built the way I just explained to Trey. And that bank account I used to obtain grant to fund that building. And one of those grants require you to have a pending contract as a cost. And what I explained to Trey was what I did. And I showed that as evidence for them to put money into that 508. But if you're not doing it that way and you're just trying to attach it to the purpose of fungible instruments, you can do it that way and you can put the Social Security down if you know that the Social Security does not have any pending loan. And that's one. Two is I never really implore people to use driver's license to open any bank account, strictly because the moment you do that, even if it's a the 508 bank account, the thing is the IRS and the FBI will always have access to it. If you listen back to the video about the FBI and IRS and bank accounts, whereby when they're doing their what is it tax assessment before they determine any amount that's owed, anyone that you know that normally does the typical file tax and stuff, and they see that driver's license attached to it, that bank account, they can automatically access you. That's like an access card that you're giving them consent to, because the bank would always put the driver's license number down, and that, believe it or not, is the medium that's used on the federal level to be able to look at your bank account, regardless of whether you're not the main one that they're assessing or not. So no,
Right.
don't use a driver's license, but 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 you can do it that way. You can use a social security number if you want to use CDOs with it.
Got it. Yeah, because it seems like the driver's license would be the minimum contact portal for them to assess you.
You got it. That's it.
Got it.
Another thing I don't really quite speak of, because some of the things that I say, I don't want to scare people with it, so to say. I want to emphasize people's awareness that, look, these stuff, it goes on. One of the things that I don't really mention is that driver's license was the death of many people without them realizing it. Anything you do that you add that driver's license number to on a federal level, it's like them. It's like you saying, yes, here, come access everything that I have going on with this. If you start reading the state legislature and driver's license and federal regulations with the Real ID Act and all that, you see how it correlates. So never use the driver's license with anything that you're trying to do when it comes to monies or any type of affairs of yours. Just try to limit as much as possible. And it's sort of a no-brainer because you would think, well, isn't a passport a federal instrument? That's why you get certain status in a passport. And when you use it, it doesn't have that type of correlation to it, because the passport is tied to international laws, which actually limits federal entities from doing certain things a certain way, because it's not just limited to inside work. The driver's license of each state is limited to inside work, whereby the state of so and so contract with the federal to basically pair things. So that's why I prefer using passport. And passports don't have addresses and stuff like that on it. You present your ID, your your address based on whatever lease you create, which would be the 508 lease, which will tie the account to the 508 and the one who's opening it.
Yeah, because initially I thought I thought you had established a 501c3 and put the 501c3 under your express trust via 8832. And that's the way I was thinking when I seen that you checked off nonprofit organization instead of unincorporated.
Oh no. See, nonprofit organization is just a blanket term for anyone or any entity that intends to do this in a manner that's tax exempt but does not expect to make money. An unincorporated association is expected to make money and is also tax exempt. That's the two main difference. 501c3 just happens to be the well-known type of nonprofit. 508 can be a nonprofit. 508 can be a charitable entity. 508 can be an unincorporated religious assembly.
Got it. Now, last question. Sorry. It's
I'm
on the same
sorry.
topic. Is it fair to assume that ends legis that was put down for that 508 account that was shown in the video is an NPC?
It always is. I'm telling you, I never put social security number down for anything.
Mm-hmm.
I stopped doing that a long time ago.
And that's okay to put that down on the signature card?
Of course, yes.
Okay. Just to make sure.
Remember, let me not go there, but yes, it is. All right. Maria, I saw you raise your hand. Do you have any questions?
Well, I just wanted you to tell me a little the difference between, you have 5 different 508s on the web page. Which one is the one that the guys are talking about?
Okay, I think it's the different templates. So let me go up there. 508. So the main thing you need to start it off is called the 508 Constitution and Bylaw.
Okay.
Next one is the 508 EIN, which is how you get the particular EIN 508 to open the bank account. Because in order for a bank account to be opened, the main thing the banks need is the digit that identifies it. They really don't care much for the name. They just need the digit because that's what matters to them. So the
EIN number?
Yes, that's the digit that
508 EIN. Okay.
So the 508 EIN is different from any other type of EIN because it's a CPA 575, which shows the exempt status of it. And that's what the banks will look at to determine how they classify it, regardless of what you put in the face of your documents. So when you open the 508 bank account, they will ask for a CPA 575 and that constitution and bylaw. And they would ask for at least also, well, they don't ask for it, but I usually present it also because I don't present any type of ID with address on it. And the 508 ties whatever name I present with that entity that's opening a bank account. And it also shows as a form of validation that it really does exist. It really does exist in a certain location. And also that 508 lease also works for you to get the property tax exempt numbers on the state level. So the next item is the 508 tax exempt step-by-step how-to video, which is how you get for the property tax exemption if you want to go that route. And then the next is the 508 trust bank account, which is how you open it, which I just summarized. But if you're not planning on doing anything else with it and you just want to open the bank account, you need the Constitution and bylaw, the EIN, and the trust bank account.
Okay. All righty. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right. I think Trey has his hands up. What's going on, Trey?
Just a quick question about what is NPC?
NPC is another name for CPN. NPC is non-player character, which is how you create another identity and another credit report for yourself to use in place of social security number.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks.
All right. Donald, any more questions before we begin?
Let's see. Yeah, regarding the spiritual work with the 1 a.m. SAN, 1 a.m. or 1 p.m. SAN, It's the video. It said that dirt was fine to use. Like it could be any dirt, or is it better if it's sand?
Really, any. It's the time that matters.
I see.
So
Okay.
you can use the one in your backyard, you can use the one next to a beach, you can use the one on a mountaintop, doesn't matter. It's the time. Because the
Okay.
molecular structure and the chemical compound, the minerals in it, differs with the concentration of water. And
And
certain entities walk with those waters during those type of days.
a follow-up to that would be in terms of not keeping those, I wouldn't know what you call them, but once you have them all finished, and you said not to keep them too close to each other, is there like, would you say, is there's like a range of how far you want to keep them away from each other? Because if I were to put one in my car, it's not too far from my house, but I don't want to over speculate.
The physical proximity is maybe about physically touching is what I was referring to.
I
So
see.
they can be so you can create two separate ones, two separate copies, and they can both be on the same table. So the physical proximity is physically touching.
Okay, got it.
Alrighty. So let's get to the topic of the day here. 1 second, let me share my screen. Okay, can you guys see the screen? Okay, cool. So discovery is one of the first few things done in any case, side by side with affirmative defense, constitutional challenge, and motion to dismiss, if you're a defendant. The reason why discovery is essential is, for one, it buys time, and two, it shakes up the representatives of entities with a sense of entitlement that they can. 1 second, let me get this person. Okay, so it shakes up welcome back, Trey. It shakes up the representatives of the other parties that have some type of sense of entitlement, that they can function in a manner absent of your knowledge of substantive things. So discovery allows you to see things. And once you start asking for things that they don't expect you to ask, or they know that it's important for you to have, for you to avail yourself, they sort of straighten up. So 3 is, it allows you to see and ask questions that you otherwise would not be able to find answers to without the means of discovery. So, for example, say child support situations, which I found to be more common, where it's really a trust matter, where third parties of the state of so-and-so act as debt collectors, assuming that there is already an order, while the administrative venue itself pretends to be court of record, which it's not. The question that will be posed by discovery with the complete 2-hour videos on a Patreon page. Take care. Best of luck.